Hello, listeners. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever and whenever you're listening from. This is the Petty Cash Podcast, which, as you all know, this podcast represents the last of the Petty Cash. I am your host for this week, Danny, and joined by me are two of my usual guests, Vinny and Charles. But today, we have some guests here on Petty Cash.
And Joe.
Joining me as well are the duo of co-hosts of the Pop Cult Ritual podcast, Joe and JD.
Hi.
And also joining us is my good friend and host of the MONSTROSITIES YouTube channel, Matt Burkett. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Good, man. How are you? Actually, how's Matt over there?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Doing all right, man. What about you?
I'm great. It's raining outside. It's pretty,
I know,
cool.
man. Freaking nuts over here. Thanks,
Yeah.
Danny, for almost getting us killed here.
Yeah, aside from having to take a boat to get here.
Yeah.
As you know, it's Arizona, so when it rains, we're just I don't know what to do, man.
When it
crash into traffic? Yep, that's good.
All right. So before we get into our main topic today, real quick, we have two little topics to brush upon. So earlier this week, I went on a trip to Williams, Arizona to do a small film shoot with a friend of mine. When we went to ASU together, we had a couple film classes. So Williams, Arizona is a three-hour drive and almost 200 miles. So that was fun driving. But I will say Williams, Arizona, especially this time of year, is beautiful. Like once we got to the last third of the trip, just a sea of trees. It was just so cool to see that much like greenery and nature up in northern Arizona. So once we finally get up to our destination, we are staying on Route 66. I'd never been up there before, so it was really cool to finally see one of the things Arizona is known for. So get to the hotel, like a beautiful loft room situation. It was really nice for it's either the oldest or one of the oldest hotels in Arizona. It was opened in the late 1800s, and the check-in counter had the currency stapled to the wall from all over the world. It was so cool seeing so many different countries' currency up on there. So we grab a bite to eat, and then we start getting ready for the shoot that night. So our director says, oh yeah, here's the address. It's about 15, 20 minutes away. I'm like, oh, sweet. So take the highway up there and we start driving on some dirt roads. We get up to the gate that we believe is the address that we got from Airbnb. We were calling the guy. He's like, hey, we're at the gate, but it's chained up. It's locked. He's like, oh, Airbnb didn't update the address. Here's the actual address. So we back out off the dirt road, back onto the highway to the next location, which is more dirt roads. And halfway through getting to the second actual location, there's this little mini dirt hill that we need to drive down to get towards the shoot location. My car was luckily able to get down this dirt hill, but not even 5 minutes driving, we get a call from the second car behind us saying, hey, our car can't physically make it down this dirt hill. And by that time, it's already just after 9. And we're all well, once we get there, it'll be 9:30. By the time we're done setting up, filming, and done with the shoot, it's going to be 2, 3 in the morning. So it was an unfortunate decision, but we had to axe the shoot and try again somewhere closer to the East Valley, or at least not further away. That's costly. So we made the most of the trip. After that, we just went to the Circle K that was by our hotel, got some junk food, watched some movies, and listened to this very podcast so I can tell the crew hey, this is our podcast, check it out. But it was an unfortunate circumstance surrounding the trip, but it was still a trip I enjoyed taking, and I wouldn't mind going back up to Williams again just for the little town that was there, the weather, and just the beautiful views that were up there.
Yeah, fuck the heat down here. I would escape too.
Yeah, no kidding. So, at least you got a little vacation out of it, though. It is unfortunate that you weren't able to get any shooting done, though.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try again later in December, it sounds like. So, fingers crossed we actually find a more decent location. But anyway, enough of my.
I don't know what the weather is like in Williams in December, but if it's trees like that, watch out for snow.
I welcome snow.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you got your ass kicked,
Man, it's
by a dirt
half
road,
cold up here.
It's half cold up here. But mini trip aside, recently the four of us, and we told our buddy JD about this, we all saw a early screening of Halloween Ends, the quote unquote final installment in the Halloween
Joy.
franchise by Blumhouse Productions. Make a long story short, it sucked.
I felt
Sucked
defeated.
balls, sucked asshole too.
I felt absolutely defeated.
It was worse than Halloween Kills somehow.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
liked
That was
Halloween
decent.
Kills.
Yeah,
I
Halloween Kills was actually better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing.
That's the sad part. Halloween Kills had like a really great like level up. It was like injecting Michael
Can we-
Myers
can
with
we just
steroids.
Spoiler it right now, since
All right, quick spoilers for Halloween Ends. If you have not seen it, though, I don't recommend seeing it if you're a big Halloween fan.
Turn away to
So-
this timeline.
anyway, in Halloween Kills, Michael actually kills people in his movie, whereas in this one,
He has 3 kills if you're technical.
And they made him vulnerable.
Yeah.
What the
Darn
hell?
And like an old
That
man.
young boy had to hand job him back to life in the sewer.
That's not
Effectively.
too far off.
Scooby Doo pan, zoom out,
Yeah.
you know, and then falls.
Yeah.
It was so stupid. It was so bad. The script was all over the place. I mean, it had 6 writers for God's sakes.
4 writers.
4?
Yeah.
Because I showed like 2 writers, you know, John Carpenter and who else from the
Well,
original
Deborah
films.
David
and then-
Gordon Green,
Yeah.
Danny McBride.
Yeah. And then you see the other 4 that pretty much butted heads and were like, you know what this felt like to me? The whole beginning of this film felt like a plot pilot episode for Halloween the series.
Yeah,
If you really
In a
think
bit,
about it for a
in
second.
a bit,
I
yeah.
could kind of see that. Yeah,
Because like if you crop out the beginning of that whole sequence, that whole romance relationship, and you just have it about Michael and Laurie fighting off each other, and then her granddaughter Allison leaving to a new town to start a new life. Imagine that stupid romance relationship being the pilot for the series, where she ends up in a relationship with somebody who's obsessed with Michael Myers.
It's like Dawson's Creek.
Yeah,
Dawson's
worse.
Creek Halloween edition.
CW show of
Oh
Halloween.
gosh.
yeah, and
The Hallmark Channel.
The biggest problem I had was the same thing with Halloween Kills. That like they just started introducing characters, like this dumb whatever the fuck his name was, like the kid
Corey.
that, is like the killer. Like in Halloween Kills, they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, what's his name? Weird Science Kid is oh yeah, he was here the whole time, and he's
Tommy.
mad
Oh, Tommy Doyle. Yeah.
mad
Yeah,
about
Doyle.
stuff. I'm like, who? Like I know the character Tommy Doyle, but I mean like him, Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, he's here and has been here, and now he's mad. So who the fuck
yeah.
was this guy? Like, you weren't even in here.
Matt, are
Well,
you a
this
fan?
was the same thing. Like, here's this kid that has this history and blah blah blah. I'm like, you can't do that in every single movie. You can't just like, oh hey, here's this new character that's gonna has a storied past with our beloved characters.
Matt, are you a fan of the Halloween franchise?
Not particularly, no.
Ah, okay. So you've probably only seen like the first one and
He's like,
like
"No,
maybe
I
2
haven't
of
seen
the
this one
sequels.
either."
Save your life, man. It's too
Yeah.
precious.
I mean,
Uh,
I say go check it out to make the judgment for yourself. But
Yeah, if you want to make your own judgment, it's streaming currently on Peacock and it's in theaters. But I think our consensus is, if you're a fan of the franchise, maybe skip out on this one. And the franchise ended with Halloween 2018. with
It really
Kills being
did.
a nice,
Yeah.
nice tack on.
that was the true ending to this whole trilogy. Just leave
Sure,
it at
Emmy
that.
was the first one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Myers
If
finally
you
burns.
don't see John Carpenter's name the first thing in any Halloween movie, it's not
You're-
it, man.
It's
Yeah.
SOL.
All right. So with my trip and Halloween out of the way, it is time to get to the meat and potatoes of this particular episode of Petty Cash Podcast. So this coming week, because I believe this episode will premiere the week of the anniversary. This Thursday, November 3rd, is the 68th anniversary of the King of the Monsters himself, Godzilla. Actually, next year is the 90th anniversary for
I know.
King Kong, which is equally, if not more impressive.
Come on,
But-
Peter Jackson, make another sequel.
Hashtag King Kong.
Remake it again.
Remake, reboot it.
So part of the reason why we got this cacophony of guests today, Joe, JD, Matt, myself, and Charles and Vinny are all somewhat involved with, or at least have seen more than 5 films in the franchise, in the Guinness World Record franchise that has been going on
Yes.
since 1954.
I have seen more than 5. I can Confirmed.
That's good. It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Who's the 5? Because I know 3 that have seen like 33, or however many there are now.
I believe as of recording, not including like shows or spin-offs, I believe there is currently 38 films. Matt, can you correct me on that, or does that sound somewhat correct?
I don't know off the top of my head, but that's probably in the correct vicinity.
Okay, it's at least 33, like somewhere between 33 and 38 films, which there's been at least one Godzilla film in every decade since 1954. That's impressive. And whether that was localized just in Japan or if we actually got those films carried over to the States, that's still at least a Godzilla film in one decade of American history. That's just so cool to think about. Now, let's go around the table and talk about your introduction and experience with the franchise. So, Matt, we'll have you go first. What is your experience and what was your first introduction to the king himself?
It's one of those things that always was just kind of there. My first stuffed animal as a kid was literally, and I'm talking like baby, was a stuffed Bondi Godzilla thing that I was given by a family friend. And apparently Godzilla 1985 was like the first movie that I'd been taken to, And as a lot of people, I was a dinosaur kid growing up, and it just kind of fell in the same world. And from that point, just grew up with it and never really grew out of it. So.
Nice. JD, Joe, what were your experiences and introductions to the franchise?
When I was young, I don't know exactly, but when I was like 2 or 3, when I started talking and shit, I was obsessed with dinosaurs. And so like my parents have videos of me like doing all the, Styracosaurus, Metriacanthosaurus, and they're like, I don't even know those fucking words. Like, and then like obviously Godzilla is like a big dinosaur, and I'm like, hell yeah. And so then, in the 90s, we kind of got like a weird, because we didn't have like those, movies coming out as much, like the Japanese, the 91, 92, 93, 94.
Yeah, the last quote-unquote Heisei movie we got in the States was Godzilla vs. Biollante, but I believe that was only aired on HBO and on VHS.
Yeah, and so like it was weird, but we got all of those like Godzilla Wars toys and all that shit. And so there was like tons of these toys, and then I was just watching old Godzilla movies, I don't think I saw Biollante until I was an adult. I remember seeing the VHS for it at Suncoast Video at the mall.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I never did. And then I like one day finally was like, holy shit, I think that was when I got the Blu-ray for it that I was able to watch it. And I was like, oh, that was...
Yeah, that Blu-ray is rare nowadays. I have the DVD that's from that same release, but geez, that Blu-ray can go for at least $120 online.
Wow.
Well, yeah, because unfortunately, it was only ever released 2, maybe 3 times here in the States, like the VHS, maybe like another VHS or DVD release, and then that Miramax release back in like 2012, 2014, back when the Legendary movie came out. Like that's when like a lot of those movies got like bigger Blu-ray releases. Like we have that Toho collection that comes with like the Heisei and Millennium movies in a 2-pack. Yeah. Joe.
Yeah, my first introduction, I would say it was around when I watched Cartoon Network. I played all the reruns of the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon. Now it was like, because that theme song, dun, dun, up there from the depths, 30 stories high. Yeah, Godzuki. Fuck up. But when I watched that, I was like, okay, this was really cool. Fire Breathing Dragon. And then I remember every time that we would rent movies in Anchorage, Alaska, there was this Filipino store, where my mom would go to and then take all the kids, and we were like rent movies. On one of the on the window there was this big Godzilla 1985 poster, and I was like, oh, okay, it was a live action movie, but that was like the extent of like, oh, that's Godzilla right there. And of course it was just raiding around video sections and all that. There was like Godzilla versus Gigan. I do remember Godzilla versus Megalon with the Twin Towers and all that. That was a memorable one. Of course I looked at,
Never forget.
No. And then, of course, my favorite, because I was so big into RoboCop and Terminator that I was like, there has to be a Robo version
Godzilla versus Terminator.
Yeah. But no, when I saw Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, one of the old
1974, yeah.
Yeah. When I saw like the VHS copy of that, I was like, oh man, I have to watch this religiously and everything. And so
The VHS I had was Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster.
Oh yeah, there was
yeah, I
like
do
there's like
remember that.
5
It is,
different
yeah.
titles for that specific one: the Bionic Monster, the Alien Monster.
yeah, and when that happened, I don't know. I guess Godzilla, in a way, like I would just always find myself like watching him on TV. When we moved to Hawthorne, California, there was this Japanese channel on the stations, and they would play like the old Godzilla movies. My mom's like, "Hey, what's this black and white movie and all that?" Oh, this is Godzilla. And I was like, "Really? The same thing that we saw, the video store?" Okay, so yeah, I'm apparently that Japanese channel's still going on, which is nice.
Awesome!
And then many years later, next thing you know, cross paths with this fool, in high school.
Hell yeah.
Me. Yeah.
Not him.
No, not this guy here.
Vinny, you're
Well,
Have you ever seen Godzilla?
yeah. Well, no, I have not seen the originals, but believe it or not, my introduction to Godzilla was actually from my uncle Richard Wessner. He actually worked on the '90s Godzilla movie.
the 1998 one specifically.
That's why I said the '90s.
Well, this one movie,
I know.
not the Heisei
I
Japanese
know.
ones.
But still, though, my uncle. So he's
Danny's going to correct you about all this.
I'm gonna be
He
that
can-
nerd. I'm gonna
We're
be that
gonna
nerd
jump
on
him
this
and all that.
podcast.
Then you can correct Danny, because Danny should know if he has an English uncle working on something, it's not going to be a 90s Japanese movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Danny.
Oh, you are my friend, you asshole.
You were the chosen one.
and here's the thing: Danny can correct me all he wants. I'm all for it. Thank you for correcting me. But if there's one thing that I'll always bring to the table, I have connections to Godzilla, bitch. My uncle, so-
Zilla.
Huh?
You have connections to Zilla.
Yeah.
Yes.
That doesn't deserve
Gino.
the title. God.
So there's a picture of my uncle with his buddy, and they're in the warehouse, and he painted the skin texture and the details of the Godzilla head, the babies, and any of like the prosthetic parts. And it's a trip looking at him with his apron all dirty and just standing next to this thing. It looks like a real dinosaur. And my uncle, he said it was like just being next to the most real thing you'll ever see. And it's just really cool. Danny, I'll send you a picture so people can see it on
Yeah,
the
I'll throw it up
podcast.
on the screen.
Right
It's
now.
But besides the 98 film, what other experience have you had with the franchise?
okay. So because my uncle was a huge Godzilla kaiju fan, I watched Godzilla because of that movie, and then I saw the animated series that followed up with that movie,
which is way
and
better than the movie.
Yeah, it really
it
was.
definitely was.
It really was. The premise of that was just amazing, and the animation was great too. God bless. And yeah, my introduction really came from you guys because I wasn't huge on Godzilla, but then when the new movies came out, I finally started watching those a bit, and you guys got me into it. And then, of course, my favorite, Kong versus Godzilla. Not the best script, but seeing those two titans fight off, and then Mecha Godzilla being revamped like that, holy shit! I love that mecha. So good.
Kiryu's better.
Yeah.
Yes. Charles, like Vinny, you had a more recent introduction to the franchise. What is your experience?
Well, so growing up, like, back when I was like 4 years old and stuff like that, you'd always see those Godzilla toys like in the toy aisles. And it was just, growing up in Podunk, Republic, Missouri, it was just like, oh, cool, it's a giant lizard here, and oh, hey, there's Mecha Godzilla, and oh, hey, there's one with wings and all the stuff like that. 4 years old, I'm like, I don't know anything, but it looks cool. And so, just grew up with like little references to it here and there. And then also there was the cartoon series, the Godzilla the series.
Mhm.
Saw that because it was in a similar animation style to the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the same animation company
Yeah.
worked on it.
Yeah, and and I think they even showed like around similar times. Like you'd see one and then see the other, or sometimes they'd alternate or whatever. But never was really like that big into the Godzilla because just never could really find anything on it. And it wasn't until I moved to I think it was Illinois when I finally got like a decent like movie selection. I think it was like Suncoast, and then there was some other like mom and pop shops where you could like start seeing these films showing up on the on the shelf.
Mhm.
And then finally met you guys, and you guys were, huge Godzilla fans, and started introducing me to the world that is Godzilla, and my wallet has never been the same since.
Never is when you meet
yeah,
Godzilla.
Yeah. So, I've seen several, but there's still a whole bunch more of the old ones I still need to watch.
Yes.
I've still got them on my shelf. I need to watch them. It's just finding the time to do so.
You haven't watched them yet?
I haven't watched them all. Yeah, no.
I remember when we were finding all those.
Exactly. I know.
That was actually funny, not to interrupt him, but we were talking about the Biollante Blu-ray.
Mhm.
I found one at Zia for like $8.
Wow.
And I already had
$8.
one. And so he's like, "Oh, Charles needs that one." I was like, "Oh, $70, Charles." For you. He's like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "Okay." So then I sold it for like $80 to somebody online.
Oh shit!
You made
Wait,
10
was it
times
the
the
3 movie pack or
Yeah, it
that?
was the
Oh, dude,
I
yeah.
actually no, the one I found was the regular one. I already had the one with the 3 movie, the like mega show.
That's the one I kept. Like,
I sold that one. I was like,
Oh.
fuck that. I want just Godzilla on here. I don't want no other bullshit.
no,
Fair.
No, you got to pack it up, man.
Yeah. I call it special features.
Gotta love me some special features.
And of course, I saw the '98 Zilla, so I think that was kind of like one of my real air quotes introductions to Godzilla. It was like, oh hey, what is this giant lizard?
Yeah, I think for most of us, this side of the table, other than Danny, because I don't know if he was born when that movie came out.
I was 2 years old.
I was
when
a
that
twinkle
movie-
in my dad's eye.
I was 2 years
It was
old when
like,
that came
I
out.
remember some Godzilla stuff from when I was younger watching VHS tapes, but it wasn't like, it was like, oh yeah, these shitty old, like Japanese movies, rubber suits, whatever. You don't like appreciate that when you're a kid. And then that movie came out in '98. I was like, oh my God. Like I remember thinking this is the coolest thing ever. But now that I'm like an adult that's smart, not dumb kid, I'm like, fuckers.
When the internet ruined us and everything, and listened to fans, we're
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's look back on it. Oh, not that great.
Yeah. I mean, as a Godzilla movie, yes, it's not great. But I think if you just like isolate it as just a giant monster movie, it's
Yeah, they call
popcorn
it The
entertainment.
Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
But yeah, that's
remake,
basically
that
what
would
it
have been
is.
perfect. It's exactly that.
But
Yeah.
then there's another thing too to keep in mind is that kids kind of got a bit of an introduction to the whole kaiju monsters through Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Guys in suits fighting, with giant mechs fighting giant monsters and all that. In a way, because like that's how I got to see a lot of this stuff. It's like, oh hey, that's kind of cool. I know the effects are cheesy.
Dragon looks familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, now we even have like comics of Godzilla and the Power Rangers crossing over.
By IDW, check it out.
Yep.
Sponsor.
For me, I was like again like in between the ages of like 2 and 4 when my parents were the Godzilla fans in the house, and they're the ones who introduced me to the movies when I was growing up. I forget which one, but I know one of these 3 were my first ones. It was either King Kong versus Godzilla, Son of Godzilla, or Godzilla's Revenge. That was one of my first ones. Was one of those 3. I like to think it was King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah, it's like one of the best or the 2 fucking worst.
Yeah, the 2 that are geared more towards children.
God.
But since then, like I've like growing up, I had all like the Bandai America like lines of action figures for like Final Wars and like the miscellaneous movies that they added. And then I think when it was around the legendary reboot that I really started getting into like the high end detailed sculptures and like fully articulated figures. That's where I found SH Monster Arts, the Bandai Namco statues, and the not the Hyatt toys. That's recent. The X Plus.
Yeah. See, and I did the opposite. X Plus, that's my jam. I've got a bunch of X Plus. Actually, less. I sold a couple of them, but I just sold Megalon. I was really sad about that. No, and because like no offense, because I actually don't know. You could sit on your bed and play with them. I don't know, but all the like articulated ones and that, I'm like I don't like I put them up in a pose and they sit on the shelf. Like I'm not putting them in dioramas or playing with them. I need them to move around. I'd rather like this nice, svelte statue doesn't have the little lines, for the articulation all over it. So, that's kind of like mine, but I've got that gigantic 62. I've got a Shin, 25 centimeter. I've got a 30 centimeter Gigan and Anguirus. Oh my God. Did I send you the pictures of the giant defo.
Yeah, you sent me a video of that dude.
Oh
the
my
giant
God.
Death
Yeah.
reel. That thing is
That's
awesome.
amazing. It's so cool. I have to bring it over when you're over next time. Look at it. It's so cool. Marky's so mad because it was like $250.
Oh my God.
for X Plus, that's still not
yeah,
bad.
exactly.
There was that one picture that you sent to me with Holden.
Yeah,
Dude, that was it.
yeah. That's the gigantic 62. I was
Yeah.
gonna take another picture of him sitting next to it because he's definitely bigger now. But yeah, I have a picture of my son. I can, if you want.
Godzilla versus HD.
Sitting
Come
on,
on,
the couch
baby.
next to my gigantic 62, and it's much larger than my child was at the time.
Wow.
Matt, I know you've gotten rid of a lot of your collection, but you still have a decently sizable collection.
I mean, most of these days, my collection is like book stuff, you know, and that's the stuff I use for the creation of the videos and everything. But yeah, I mean, I still will buy stuff on occasion, but it's more so stuff that I feel more of a connection to, as opposed to just I gotta have it because I don't have this kaiju, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's a fair mentality. It's also a less expensive mentality. You Matt, you took the trips out to Japan back in 2017 and 2018 when the anime trilogy was coming out in Japan. I know you I think out of like most Godzilla fans, you have a personal like love and connection to those movies just because you made that trek overseas to see those movies in Japan. Can you talk about your experience about that?
Yeah, as far as I know, I am one of 3 people on the face of planet Earth that actually likes those movies. Yeah, no. 2017, it was my first trip over there, and it just happened to be in conjunction with the release of that movie. It's also when Toho actually started doing the Godzilla Day festivals. They call it Godzilla Fest without the T. I don't know why, but they call it G Fest instead of G Fest. And it was pretty surreal. You know, those movies I think were made better with those experiences. I think that if you didn't, you know, without the personal experience behind them, I think my opinion on them would greatly differ. But yeah, it was really cool. You know, a year previous, our friend Max did Shin Godzilla, and he said a great time with that. And it was something that I'm glad I was able to kind of replicate, because as it stands now, I mean, those were the last 3 Japanese Godzilla entries released in theaters, you know, not counting the MonsterVerse stuff. I don't know. It's just kind of fun, you know, on a nerdy level, to just kind of experience that kind of thing. And I highly recommend anybody and everybody to go over to Japan, not just for the nerd stuff, but just because it really is a beautiful country, wonderful culture, and definitely something I enjoy doing quite a bit.
For sure, I would love to. That's definitely on the list.
I've been wanting to go to Japan ever since I was a kid, mainly because of Godzilla, but like Japan is a country, like the countryside and then like the main city of Tokyo and like all this adjacent cities, Shinjuku, Osaka. It just looks amazing to be a part of. I'm always jealous every time you make the trip over, Matt. One of these days I'll finally
Get
make it
your
over.
passport first, man.
I want to go to Hiroshima
Oh,
Nagasaki.
and Nagasaki.
I think those are like memorial museums now, like whatever.
Like cities
Yeah.
now. Like,
This is where it dropped.
it's just cool. Like,
But that's where the idea,
yeah,
like, yeah, if
exactly.
you really think
There you
about it,
go.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
We woke up a sleeping giant. No, that wasn't America, yo. That was the idea of Godzilla. Or
You're welcome,
Gogeta.
Japan.
Metal.
Yeah,
Go
no,
on.
there's tons of shit I want to go to Japan for. Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
deathmatch wrestling,
Deathmatch wrestling.
Godzilla,
Yeah, that for me, like
Rice.
I've pinpointed right. Did you say rice? What?
I was trying to think of one more thing.
Oh my god.
Robot fights.
Yeah. They're
Oh,
raising
yeah,
up
yeah.
McDonald's.
Oh god, they're
America
McDonald's.
America.
But yeah, I've had my Japan trip like planned out ever since I graduated high school. I want to stay in downtown Shinjuku at the Hotel Gracery and spend at least one night in the Godzilla room. Which, Matt, you have at least twice. So since you've been to that specific hotel, what's it like?
I mean, again, it's really cool, and it's definitely something that I would recommend any fan to do. The Godzilla room can be pretty costly, depending on kind of like when you actually place it in. I mean, as of 3 years ago, it was between like 300 and 500 a night. It's a worthy investment, though. I mean, like I said, it's going to be one of those strictly Japanese experiences. I mean, you can't just go to Anaheim and have this happen. The view is spectacular because it's on the very top floor of this building, and you also got the head there. That roars. There's on a set schedule, like later into the afternoon, evening. It's kind of like every hour on the hour. You get a silent show and it's blowing out steam and stuff. 1/1 scale head. I believe it's the 92 variation of Godzilla. Yeah, man. It's really neat. The past couple years, they've really have brought Godzilla back into kind of the cultural zeitgeist over there because, I mean, believe it or not, Godzilla has never really been a huge thing, I had a friend who he taught English over there for about 5 or 6 years, and he kind of equated Godzilla to Popeye here. It's like, yeah, we know who Popeye is, but do you really hear many people talking about Popeye?
Okay.
Most people are like, who the hell is Popeye? But yeah, Danny, if you're gonna go, I mean, just to let you know, I believe you should probably book well in advance, especially the Gracery. The Shinjuku Gracery is extraordinarily popular, and I think the prices are just going up and up and up and up, especially with the recent reopening.
Well, yeah, I want to make that trip eventually. And Matt, you've inspired me to experience more stuff, and just instead of just like collecting stuff, like go out there and like experience more places and like events like that. So that's one of the reasons I want to try and get a passport in the next year and finally make that trip out to Japan.
It's like $30.
No, I know that, but
go to Walgreens and get a photo.
You can just do it yourself, man. Even though Walgreens frowns upon it, don't do
it. It's a little bit more than $30, but it's a worthwhile investment. I mean, you don't have to renew it for a decade. So
Danny, we can go together. I'll split a room with you.
Oh, Matt. Hey, I just wanted to ask at the hill that you first see, Godzilla for the first time in the original. Did you actually visit that location? Because I'm kind of like a filming location, like tour nut, when it comes to stuff like this. Have you gone to the location where you first see Godzilla kind of creeping up from the hill or mountain?
No, I don't actually know where that's at, but I mean, I've done a lot of some of the countryside locations, not a ton, but a handful. A lot of the city locations.
Right.
There's at least one book out there that I think that has a lot of that stuff written in English. I think it's for you can buy it on Kindle, but that kind of thing should be easily found, And I also, as much as I love Tokyo too, I mean, the truth of the matter is, as much as you can get lost in Tokyo, it's really like going out there and going out into the boonies, going out into the countryside, going out to these smaller cities that you really get to experience just this place, And, I hate to make it sound like Weeaboo Disneyland, but it's, it's just kind of, I don't know. I'm very biased. I got a special connection to that place, and it's just one of those things I highly recommend. And Danny, you were talking before about, I appreciate the kind words, but I'm at a point in my life to where I highly recommend people. It's like, hey, forego the 7X pluses you're going to buy, say within a year, and save that towards a trip out there. I mean, you can, even though it's a hefty penny, you could do a week out there round trip, depending on where you're booking it through, at a good hotel for between $15 and $2,000, which sounds like, it's a good chunk of change, but you're also going to be making a lot of memories there that are going to last you a lifetime and are probably going to bring you a hell of a lot more joy than, the figure you got to dust on your shelf for the next however many years. But that's just my personal preference.
I don't know. I've seen Danny's figures and they look pretty well loved.
Yeah, Danny. Yeah, that's an aspect of Danny's life I don't think we should be talking about on this particular.
I disagree.
So I am glad to know that Danny, you have a circle of friends who has also noticed this thing, and it's not just myself.
Yep.
Danny, this is sticky. Damn it.
Danny, why do all those Godzillas in your room not have tails attached?
What? What have you done?
By the way,
Yeah,
on your
sex with him.
trips to Japan, you're taking Sabrina, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If
What about me? I asked first.
Hide you in the luggage.
biggest suitcase I can find.
Wow.
We'll use the FedEx box for George.
You
know, in the
George
airhole.
get
You
bigger
just see a
box.
box come tumbling out of the storage area of the plane. Just bam! Ow! Did that box just say something? No, it didn't.
I can get there. It's staying in the room that we're talking about. It doesn't have to sneak me
I
on the
can just see
plane.
it like a Dracula didn't loving it scenario. Just JD, like kind of like Dracula, just rocking the ship back and forth.
I'll
JD like
stay
Renfield.
I'll stay on the couch, and you'll barely hear me over there while you guys are plugging away.
Haru, you idiot!
I'll try to time the climaxes with the Godzilla roars so they don't hear it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so moving on to more fun part of this topic.
What?
That
was
was
fun.
fun.
You better believe it.
Matt, he said you weren't fun.
You know what's not going to be fun is the cleaning lady's job after Danny has a night in the Godzilla room.
Oh!
Dandy's gonna launch arc jizz all over that motherfucker.
Meanwhile, Sabrina's in the corner, just looking at him, just disapprovingly.
Unfulfilled.
I'm sleeping in the little capsules.
She's like, what about me? He's like, Godzilla, bitch. Okay, I love him first.
Here, wear this. The fuck?
Wear this Mothra costume. Put this egg. Never mind. Just put it in the corner for right now.
Oh my gosh.
I'm in my Ghidorah costume. Like, dude, what the fuck? When are we doing this?
Jesus, I can just see that mental image.
No comment.
You know, you think it's a joke, but you know, Danny's hard as a rock right now under this table. Charles, can you do a boner check for me?
No,
Just look, Charles.
I am not.
I see it.
Oh, jeez.
What the fuck is happening?
Anyway, why don't we all detail and just talk about our favorite films of the franchise? Matt, why don't you go ahead with your favorite film in the franchise?
I mean, that's hard because like I love a whole bunch of them. You know, I really love Shin Godzilla. I know that can be like a controversial statement. I mean, I love the Showa films, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla '74. He's great. Destroy All Monsters. Same thing with the '90s movies. I mean, as goofy as it is, I love Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Oh yeah.
And Millennium movies are okay. I mean, they're watchable, but you know, out of that lot, again, just for fun, Final Wars. You know, but
This man is after my heart. Other than
I'm all in love with you, man.
Mechagodzilla replaced with Gigan, we're all the same right there. For me, all my favorites.
All right, Joe, JD, your favorites.
Yeah, Shin Godzilla is my absolute favorite, and yeah, same thing. Like, I'll fight anybody about it. Like, it's the best Godzilla movie ever made. Best Godzilla design. It's such a cool movie. Like
That one.
Some people are bored to fuck with it because there's not a lot that happens, but dude, it's so good.
It's one of the few Godzilla movies where the plot revolves around Godzilla. It's not like, oh, we have the human plot, maybe some like Godzilla related incidents with them,
they
and
play
then you see Godzilla.
Yeah.
And they play important parts in it. There, it's not just
And I loved the like, just you know, the like inefficiency of humans. Like, one, we're not prepared to deal with this giant, you know, lizard, but even then, it's not like every goddamn the old, you know, Showa series where it's like, oh, Godzilla, and then dun 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 dun, and here comes all the tanks and the maser fucking beams and all this shit.
Have you not learned?
Who you know got this? Who got you guys like here already? Like, oh, we have to watch a bureaucracy of like, oh shit, we need to do this. We'll go ask that guy, and then he'll propose it to the, you know, the council, and then they'll ask this guy. And like, I just love that in Shin. But yeah, Godzilla vs. Gigan of the Showa era, absolute favorite. Just I love Gigan. He's my favorite. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, or whatever the hell it's called, the '90s one.
Yeah, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Isn't it something different? I don't know. Like,
No, it's just straight Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
that's right.
2 was the
'Cause
one
it's
with Mecha, right? Mecha. Or no, that was it. That was it.
Mecha
Okay.
Ghidorah,
Yeah.
And then Final Wars. Fucking love Final Wars.
Just because that.
Don
Yeah.
Fry.
Yeah.
And that crazy Asian guy that's like your brother.
Oh,
Lawrence
everybody
and
from
spandex, man.
Versus
Yeah.
is in that movie.
Oh, yeah. Fucking
Ryuhei Kitamura.
Versus, yeah.
Joe?
Oh man, with me the Showa era. I mean, I go back to it. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Also, if I had to pick from any of the originals, I mean, dude, I remember when you had like the VHS JD when you had the VHS tape of King Kong versus God. Dude, I was about to walk out with it. Like, sorry, friend, this is mine now.
You
But
might have, for all I know, I don't have them anymore.
you sold that. It's a shit. But I don't know. It's hard to pick like a certain favorite one because as we said before, it goes through like the decades and everything. I do remember though, went to the Galleria and we did see Godzilla 2000, so that holds a special place in my heart. It was so confusing to us too. We were like, "Wait, what the heck? Godzilla 98 in this movie?" We thought, yeah. And so, other than that, yeah, I just give it to those top three.
All right.
It was funny, like at that. Sorry to interject. That time when like Godzilla 1980 came out, and it was like, oh, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're making another Godzilla, and we're like, cool. As a kid, you don't like, I don't know the complicated relationship Toho has with this and licensing and all that, so I'm just like, oh, another Godzilla, and they're like, yeah, but fuck you can't watch it, and it's not the sequel to this one, it's our own. I'm like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, I remember like when 98 came out in Japan, like Toho immediately started like working on Godzilla 2000. It came out in 1999, a year later after 98, and then it came out in August of 2000 for us
They're
Americans.
good at banging those out in a year, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the
They're
Godzilla
not
movies,
fucking,
like
Oscar
the
worthy
Millennium
movies.
series specifically, they weren't too complicated story-wise, like story-wise and like filming the human stuff. Like, oh, we have this one chick who wants to be a part of G-Force, so let's focus on her. Like, oh, she wants to help pilot Mechagodzilla or Kiryu, and then we fight Godzilla. It's
Kiryu? What the hell is
Really... Kiryu? What the hell is that?
We have to say it.
Vinny, your favorite of the franchise?
98.
Well, of the three that I've seen, no. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah.
You answered it for me.
All right,
I mean-
Charles.
Well, I will say
yeah.
I have more. Give me a
I
minute.
know.
Let me breathe. Shit. But yeah, no, the 98 is a guilty pleasure though because my uncle did work on it and I did enjoy it. That was my first take on Godzilla, so can't really say I don't hate it. But at the same time though, Kong Skull Island was great. The second Godzilla movie, the remake one, was amazing. Kong versus Godzilla, again, personally my favorite.
But
But
recent legendary ones.
yeah. So yeah, that's just as far as it goes for me. Like I never had a chance to watch any of the originals.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that.
Yeah,
But that's the best part about reliving it with new eyes and shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You guys get to watch my experience, or at least get to hear my take on it.
God damn it, anyway, wake up.
All right, you were saying,
Charles.
For me, I'd have to say Shin Godzilla definitely is one of my favorites. I felt like I encompassed everything that I would imagine Godzilla being. Like it incorporates the human aspects. It also incorporates, big lizard aspect. I think it just covers all the bases. But then for other ones like Destroy All Monsters, that one was fun. I enjoyed that one a lot. I really love the design of Mechagodzilla in Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. That one's like one of my favorites.
Mhm.
It's the reason why I got the little statue. Of
Yeah.
it.
Is that an X Plus or is that just like a different company statue?
I think that was X Plus.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I got it right before they jacked the prices up like about another 150
Oh,
on it.
so like course, place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Call you out.
and but also
Sponsor us.
but also Godzilla versus Kong, the latest one, and not so much for the human aspect of it, but just for the fact that we finally got to see a big fight between the big three. Like in my mind, the big three. Godzilla, Kong, and Mechagodzilla. You know, and I'm a sucker for Mechagodzilla. Yeah, as you saw. I mean, I've also got the Monster Arts Mechagodzilla figure. So which I still need to find a place to display that properly.
Yeah, your shelves are like mine are running out of room.
Yeah.
For me, I think I've expressed this just about everywhere. My personal favorite of the franchise is Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack.
Boo.
I do love Shin. I saw that twice when it came here for like that week engagement back in 2016. I saw it with my buddy Matt at the first day it came out, and then I took my mom to see it the next day. And funny enough, like me and Matt, we went to the same showing, so it was nice watching that movie with good company multiple times on the big screen. For like some of the older ones, like of course Godzilla 54 it's a great film. Like you can say like so many of these movies are like you give it a pass, like it was a good Godzilla movie, but like there's very few you can say like these are actually well made films. Like 54, 84, GMK, I would kind of say 2014 it was a well made film. Is it a good Godzilla movie? You could argue that, but Shin was just it was so well made, like a modern Godzilla with well done storytelling, really great effects for Japan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I basically love like 95% of the Godzilla movies. I'm growing up like oh, I love all of them. They're all great, but
The
like
one though.
the one I hate.
No, the one, like the one you have to like. Okay, this is mine to cherish all. That's the tough one. I know.
Mine to cherish all. Maybe King Kong versus Godzilla, the original one. Like it's I have fond memories, especially of the American version. It wasn't until like the last few years that I like finally watched the full Japanese version of the movie.
Yeah.
That's how I can say like a lot of like the early Showa era movies. I've only ever seen the dubbed versions just because that's all we had available growing up, and now that with all the DVD and Blu-ray releases, we finally got to see some of the Japanese versions.
I think this was
Criterion.
Yeah,
your case was fucking stupid, and all the art sucked.
I think this was like before like we hung out, Danny, but like when I went to watch Shin Godzilla at the Alamo in El Paso, I remember I was messaging you like, "You're watching it tonight? You watching it tonight?" and all that, and so. Like going back to like Shin Godzilla, like the experience I had, like it's still like embedded in my head. Like I can still remember it like yesterday and all. And so, my favorite parts of that movie are when the people are driving underneath Godzilla and you kind of just look up at the
that tracking shot where you see him.
Yeah, and they're just like, oh shit. But then when you saw the awesome power of that thing, like just atomic breathing the fuck out of it.
The music was so haunting.
Like, nope. Sorry, Legendary. I don't think you'll beat this thing.
Yeah. See, and that's with Shin Godzilla does something rarely happens in Godzilla when you look at the scope of it is Godzilla by himself. You know, like there's 54, 84, and 98.
54, 84, 98.
Sorta except with the Godzilla
Yeah,
or
Raptor.
the babies,
yeah.
And then Shin. There's only been like 4 movies where it's just Godzilla.
You know, 54 obviously I think did it arguably the best, but I still think Shin was better. But no, like 84 just it kind of got to that like
Cold War.
Yeah, but like it was like the original one was like, oh shit, we need to do this and the oxygen destroyer, blah blah blah. And it was like, cool, humanity's futility, blah, blah, blah. That 84 was just kind of like more sci-fi. It wasn't like the thriller, not horror, but, that the original was. 98 was just, dog shit. And then, like, Shin, like, brought that back. You're like, holy shit, that's scary. Like, this thing just comes out of the ocean.
What would we do?
Yeah. Everyone is just so poorly equipped that, like, what do we do? And they're like, I don't know, shoot it? Like, shoot it. That didn't work. Freeze it. Like, oh, thank God that worked.
Is there any of the original movies that you prefer the American version over the original Japanese version?
No, I don't think so. I try to watch them. Are you talking just like the ones that have different versions, like the original, or?
Well, I know, like with for example, like King Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla. Like those ones are like they're different, but. I
usually try to watch movies in their native language with subtitles because it doesn't bother me. But when I'm watching like Godzilla, just brainless, mindless, like
Action movie.
yeah, like I'm watching, it fucking. Oh my god, the dubs are so funny. They're dumbass voices. And-
Banana oil.
Yeah.
I was desperate and worried and anxious.
I think
Good call
Ibira or Ibira, whatever, however you pronounce it, and Megalon have the best, worst dubbing of the entire dude, Megalon, that little kid. God, I hope that kid's dead. Like, fuck, man.
Angry.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, the American version.
I love that.
Something funny's going on.
I
You
love
better
it.
go check.
Wait,
Oh,
the Japanese
God.
version, did it have the little comic bubbles? Or
The Japanese
was it
version had the speech bubbles,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. God, please. Someone edit that back in.
You can probably find like the 4K version
Yeah.
online from like some third-rate site or whatever.
Please, yeah, fix the screeching roar.
Yeah. I mean, even just having the talk was like dumb enough, but then they were like, "Oh, well, we need to add the like record scratch remixing in there for some reason." I'm like, "Why is that happening?"
I don't know. Oh, that was thunder. Dang.
You can hear it coming down.
The storm's still up
Still
on,
raging
on
out
us.
there.
I mean, look how dark it is from the window. Jesus Christ.
So I don't know how. I think have you seen Singular Point?
Just saw a couple minutes. I didn't finish it.
Yeah, I know Matt, JD, and I. We all watched Godzilla Singular Point, the first anime show of this franchise when it premiered late last year. Matt, you covered it as it was airing in Japan. What was that like? I know you like covered it episode by episode.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. Definitely one of the more popular things on the channel. I had a really good time watching it as it aired, and subsequently covering it in other ways and stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah, JD, what did you think of Singular Point? You watched it all the way through.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's so much different than everything else, being an anime, which one was really surprising to me that it's one of those things you don't think about until you're like, wow, there really has never been an
I
anime.
mean, we had the anime trilogy of films, but those
Yeah,
were like
those, but-
CG
But,
anime.
like, that was more like, I don't know, like a serious kind of thing. This was like, oh, look, here's the, all the anime tropes are there. The like goofy old man that, and like the, young girl is in love with this guy and blah, blah, it had plenty of like human stuff like that. I didn't like the anime trilogy movies. Like I didn't like the animation style, but also they were just like boring as hell. Like, but Singular Point I actually liked a lot. I liked the kind of redesigns of most of the stuff.
They all
Singular
looked
Godzilla
like I
looked
love
really
the
cool.
designs of all the monsters in that. Like for me, like that was such a fun show to just watch. Like I was watching like 2 episodes a week on my channel, and for me, it was weird. Like for me, it was the odd episodes, like episodes like 7, 9, and 3 were some of the best episodes of the series. And then like when we got to that finale, it was all sorts of trippy, but in a way, I was still able to kind of like follow along what was going on. And then, please, can we get a season 2 with that sting at the very end of the show? We need a season 2. I'm hungry for a season 2 of that show. But with that, I believe we are coming to a close on this episode of Petty Cash. As you can all tell, we're giant Godzilla fans. If you have not seen any of the franchise, if you're like, okay, I've heard of Godzilla, but I want to experience more, do yourselves a favor, start from the beginning, or if you like us to give any of our personal recommendations, it sounds like if you want to start with the original stuff, some of the later stuff, or if you're like, hey, here's a random one from the middle of the franchise. There's really no bad place to start, but I highly recommend just start from the beginning with Godzilla 1954. But I want to thank my guests, Matt, and our guests from Pop Cult Ritual, JD and Joe, for coming on today. Really appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe's
I
here
know.
all the time. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Secret Joe's actually just a part of the Pop Cult Ritual.
Blasphemy.
Everybody else, if you're learning about Godzilla, also there's a shitload of kaiju movies out there. And
Yes.
shows and everything.
Stuff that we didn't even get to on this
Yeah,
episode.
watch Ultraman, watch Gamera, watch Gorgo, Reptilicus, the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Or the Gargantuas.
Yes.
Or the Gargantuas. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's tons of Toho adjacent ones like those. I didn't know if we were gonna have time to talk about those, but yeah.
Or even
all
like Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Pacific
yeah,
Rim's
yeah.
great.
the first one.
Yeah, it's the first one. Yeah, forget the
If
second
you
one.
like Cloverfield. Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
Cloverfield.
yeah.
That too. Yeah.
But for now, this is Danny.
Vincent.
This is Charles.
JD.
And Joe from Pop Cult Ritual
Yeah, I'm JD from Pop Cult Ritual
as well.
Yeah,
And please remember to slow down, chew your food.
and Matt.
And Matt too.
Bye, Matt.
All right.
Adios.
Thank you, Matt.
I remembered you. Don't worry.